Keanu arrived at the Atlanta soundstage just after 6 a.m. The production was massive. A superhero blockbuster with a $200 million budget. He was playing a cameo role, a mentor to the main character. 3 days of shooting. Well paid. For a studio he'd worked with for years. Good relationship. Easy yes. The soundstage was enormous. Size of an aircraft hangar. Dozens of sets. Hundreds of crew members. The controlled chaos of big-budget filmmaking. Trucks everywhere. Equipment being moved. People shouting coordinates. Organized pandemonium. He found the production office. Checked in with the AD, the assistant director. A harried woman in her 40s with a headset and a tablet. Mr. Reeves, welcome. Costumes first, then hair and makeup. We're shooting your scenes today and tomorrow. Trying to keep you on schedule. Whatever you need. I'm flexible. She looked relieved. Big stars being flexible made her job exponentially easier. Thank you. That's really helpful. Follow me. She led him through the maze of a soundstage. Past elaborate sets. A futuristic cityscape. An alien throne room. Un más práctico el espacio interior. The production design was impressive. Expensive. Detailed. The costume department was set up in a section-off area. Racks of costumes. Sewing machines. Mirrors. A woman in her 50s was waiting. Her badge read Rosemary Chun, costume designer. She smiled when she saw Keanu. Mr. Reeves. Pleasure. I've been working on your costume for weeks. Let's get you fitted. The costume was elaborate. Multiple pieces. Armor-like, but flexible. Dark colors. Practical, but cinematic. Rosemary worked carefully, adjusting each piece, checking the fit. Sorry if this takes time. This costume is particular. Lots of components that need to sit just right. Take all the time you need. Better to do it correctly. You're very patient. Not all actors are. Something in her tone. A weariness. Keanu noticed but didn't push. While she worked, he observed the energy around him. Crew members moved quickly but nervously. Conversations were hushed. There was tension, the kind that came from stress or fear. He'd been on enough sets to recognize the difference between productive pressure and toxic environment. This felt like the latter. How's the shoot been so far? He asked Rosemary. She hesitated, chose her words carefully. Challenging. The work is good. The crew is professional. But it's been tense. The director? No. David Chun is wonderful. Very collaborative. She stopped. Reconsidered. It's fine. We're managing. Keanu didn't press. But he filed it away. Something was wrong here. After costumes came hair and makeup. The team was efficient. Friendly but rushed. Again, that underlying tension. People working quickly. Not making eye contact. Keeping conversations surface level. He was released to set around 8:30. The main soundstage where his first scene would shoot. A massive space. Cameras. Lights. Monitors. Maybe 50 people working. Setting up. Rehearsing. The director, David Chun, spotted Keanu and approached. Keanu, thank you for coming. Means a lot to have you here. They'd worked together 5 years ago on a smaller film. David was talented, thoughtful, good with actors, good with crew. A director Keanu respected. Happy to be here. What do you need from me? Just be present. Your character is the moral center of this scene. The anchor, Connor, our lead, he's the fireworks. You're the gravity. Does that make sense? Perfectly. Where's Connor? Should we rehearse? David's expression shifted. Just slightly. A tightening around his eyes. He'll be here soon. He's getting ready. Why don't we block the scene with stand-ins first? Get the technical elements set. Then bring you both in. Sure. Whatever works. Keanu stepped back. Watched the crew work. The DP, director of photography, was a woman named Samantha Yorks. He recognized her. Veteran cinematographer. Done a dozen big films. She was conferring with her gaffer, working out lighting angles. Professional. Confident. Around 9 a.m., Connor Blake arrived. 26 years old. Rising star. 2 hit films in the last 3 years. Being positioned by the studio as the next big thing. Handsome. Charismatic on screen. But Keanu had heard rumors. Difficult. Demanding. Maybe worse. Connor strode on his set like he owned it. Not in a confident way. In an entitled way. There was a difference. Confidence was earned. Entitlement was assumed. He went straight to his chair, the one with his name on it, sat down without greeting anyone, pulled out his phone. David approached him. "Connor, good morning. We're ready to block the scene. Keanu's here. Want to meet him before we start?" Connor glanced up, saw Keanu. His expression shifted to something approximating professional friendliness. He stood, approached with his hand out. "Keanu Reeves, the legend himself. Honor to work with you." The handshake was firm. Too firm. Compensating. The smile was practiced. Empty. "Likewise. Looking forward to our scenes." "Yeah, well, hope you can keep up. I'm pretty intense. I demand the best from everyone. Sometimes people can't handle it." The tone was light, but there was an edge. A warning? A boast? Keanu wasn't sure. "I'll do my best." Connor returned to his chair, went back to his phone. David briefed them both on the scene. An argument between mentor and student. Connor's character is reckless. Keanu's character is cautioning him. Tension, emotion, a relationship fracturing. They rehearsed once. Just blocking. No real acting yet. Connor hit his marks. Knew his lines. Technically proficient. But there was something off. He wasn't connecting. Wasn't listening. Was performing at Keanu rather than with him. After the rehearsal, David consulted with Samantha about camera angles. They decided on a 2-camera setup. Wide and close-up. Efficient. Professional. The crew moved quickly, resetting equipment. Then the first real take. Cameras rolling. Sound recording. Keanu delivered his lines. Gave Connor something to react to. Played it with gravitas, with concern, with the weight of a mentor who sees his student making dangerous choices. Connor's response was fine, technically correct, but hollow. He was hitting marks, saying lines, but not embodying the character, not connecting emotionally. David called cut, gave notes, asked Connor to bring more vulnerability, more conflict. Second take. Connor adjusted. Better, but still something missing. Keanu tried different approaches, offering different energies to react to, but Connor wasn't really reacting, was in his own head, performing some internal idea of the scene rather than engaging with what was actually happening. Third take. Connor blew a line. Stop mid-scene. Cut. Cut. This isn't working. David hadn't called cut, but Connor had stopped. The crew froze. You didn't just stop a take unless something was seriously wrong. David approached. "What's not working, Connor?" "The light. I can't see. There's a shadow on my face. Makes me look bad. The DP needs to fix it." Samantha, the DP, stepped forward. Professional. Calm. "Connor, the lighting is the same as we rehearsed. Your marks are clear. The light ratio is exactly what we discussed. I don't care what we discussed. I'm telling you it's wrong now. I can see it on the monitor. There's a shadow. Fix it." His voice had an edge. Not a request. A demand. Samantha's jaw tightened. 20 years of experience being questioned by a 26-year-old who didn't know the difference between motivated lighting and flat coverage. "I can adjust if you'd like, but it will change the look of the scene. This lighting is designed to show conflict. Shadow is intentional. I didn't ask for a cinematography lesson. I asked you to fix the light. Can you do that or not?" The entire set went quiet. Crew members exchanged glances. This wasn't professional disagreement. This was disrespect. David stepped in. "Let's take 5. Samantha, can you and I look at the monitor together? See if there's a compromise." "Of course." Connor went back to his chair. Didn't apologize. Didn't acknowledge that he'd just been rude to one of the best cinematographers in the business. Just sat down. Scrolled his phone. Like nothing had happened. Keanu watched. Said nothing, but filed it away. This was a pattern. He could see it in the crew's reactions. They weren't surprised. They were resigned. This had happened before. Was happening regularly. And no one was stopping it. Samantha and David adjusted the lighting. Added a bit more fill light to soften the shadows on Connor's face. Compromising the artistic vision to accommodate ego. The adjustment took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of crew time. Equipment time. Budget time. Because one actor didn't like how a shadow looked. They reset. Tried again. This time Connor was satisfied with the light. The take went smoothly. Until it didn't. At the end of the scene, there was a physical moment. Connor's character was supposed to push past Keanu's character. Frustrated. Dismissive. A blocking moment that had been choreographed. But Connor pushed too hard. Actually shoved. Not dangerously, but harder than rehearsed. Keanu took it, stayed in character, finished the scene. David called cut. Looked pleased. That was good. That frustration at the end, Connor, that was real. Let's do one more for safety. They reset. Ran it again. This time Connor pushed even harder. Again, not dangerous, but aggressive. Making a point. Keanu didn't react. Stayed professional. Finished the scene. David called cut. Great. Moving on. During the reset, Keanu approached Connor. Quietly. Hey, the push at the end. Can we calibrate that? It's reading a bit aggressive. Might take the audience out of the scene. Connor looked at him. Something flashed in his eyes. Defensiveness. Irritation. I'm playing frustrated. That's what frustration looks like. Maybe you're just not used to actors who bring real intensity. It was dismissive. Subtly insulting. Keanu absorbed it. Didn't escalate. Just a suggestion. Do what feels right. He walked away. But something had shifted. Connor wasn't just difficult. He was hostile. Defensive. Unwilling to collaborate. This was going to be a long 3 days. The morning continued. Scene after scene. Connor's behavior didn't improve. He complained about props. This gun feels cheap. Give me a better one. He complained about his costume. This is too tight. I can't move. Did anyone actually fit this properly? Always complaints. Always criticisms. Always aimed at crew members who couldn't defend themselves. At lunch break, the crew scattered quickly. People eating alone or in small groups. The energy was depleted. Exhausted not from work, but from management. From managing Connor's ego. His outbursts. His constant need for adjustment and accommodation. Keanu found Rosemary, the costume designer, eating alone near the costume racks. Mind if I join you? She looked up, surprised. Of course. Please. They ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Keanu asked, how long has it been like this? She knew exactly what he meant. Since day one. 6 weeks ago. Connor's been difficult. That's the polite word. Abusive is the accurate one. Has anyone talked to David? To the producers? David's doing his best. But he's under enormous pressure from the studio. Connor is their golden boy. 2 hits. Test screenings are great. They've invested everything in him being the next big franchise star. David's been told to manage it. Keep Connor happy. Deliver the film on time. Don't make waves. So the crew just has to take it. We don't have a choice. It's this or get replaced. And in this economy, with this much competition, everyone's afraid to speak up. We've all got bills to pay. Families to support. We just endure. That's not right. No, it's not. But it's reality. It's how this industry works. Stars get protected. Crew gets sacrificed. Tale as old as Hollywood. After lunch, they set up for a fight scene. Connor and 3 stunt performers. Choreography that had been rehearsed for weeks. Complex but safe. Professional stunt coordinators. Experienced performers. Everything planned down to the inch. Cameras rolled. Action. Connor executed the sequence, but missed a mark by several feet. The choreography fell apart. One stunt performer nearly took an accidental hit. Not because of the stunt performer's error. Because Connor wasn't where he was supposed to be. David called cut. Connor, you missed your mark there. Need to be 2 steps left after the first punch. Connor ripped off his mic. Actually tore it off his costume. I didn't miss my mark. The lighting is wrong. I can't see where I'm supposed to be. That's a DP problem. Samantha stepped forward. Calm. Professional. Patient despite being blamed for something that wasn't her fault. Connor, the lighting is the same as we rehearsed. The marks are visible. They're taped on the floor. Don't tell me what's visible. I can't see them. Fix it. His voice rose. Sharp. Angry. The entire set went silent. Crew members looked at their feet. At their equipment. Anywhere but at Connor. This was the moment Keanu recognized. The moment when someone with power abused it. When someone who should know better chose cruelty. Samantha nodded. Still professional. Still composed despite being yelled at in front of 50 people. Okay, we can add some additional fill light. Give me 10 minutes. She walked away. Her team followed. Adjusting lights. Solving a problem that didn't exist. Accommodating an ego that didn't deserve accommodation. Keanu watched Connor. The actor went back to his chair, sat down, pulled out his phone. No apology. No acknowledgement that he'd just publicly berated a respected professional. Nothing. David caught Keanu's eye. The director looked exhausted, defeated, trapped. Keanu understood. David was in an impossible position, but that didn't make it right. 10 minutes later, the lighting was adjusted. They tried to take again. This time Connor hit his marks, but decided the stunt performer had come too close. He almost hit me in the face. Are you trying to injure me? The stunt performer, a professional named Rick with 15 years experience, apologized. Sorry, Mr. Blake. I'll be more careful. You better be more than careful. You better be perfect. My face is worth millions. Your job isn't worth shit if you damage me. Silence. Sickening, uncomfortable silence. Rick nodded stiffly. 15 years as a stunt performer, working on the biggest films, being told his work was worthless by a 26-year-old actor who'd gotten lucky. Keanu felt something harden inside him. This was beyond difficult, beyond demanding. This was abuse, and was being tolerated, enabled, allowed to continue because Connor Blake made money for the studio. They broke for 15 minutes. Reset. During the break, a PA, a production assistant, maybe 22 years old, brought Connor coffee. Here's your latte, Mr. Blake. Connor took a sip. His face contorted. This is wrong. I ordered oat milk. This is almond. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought. You're not paid to think. You're paid to bring me the right coffee. How hard is that? How incompetent can you be? I apologize. I'll go get another. You're damn right you'll get another. Connor threw the coffee. Not at the PA, but near him. The cup hit the floor. Spilled. Hot liquid splashed onto the PA's shoes. The young man looked down at the mess. His face red. Humiliated. 22 years old, probably making barely above minimum wage, being degraded in front of everyone. Clean that up, and bring me the right coffee. 10 minutes, or you're fired. The PA nodded. Scrambled away. Another crew member, a set dresser, quietly started mopping up the spill. Connor didn't even look. Just went back to his phone. Like he hadn't just thrown hot coffee near a kid who was trying his best. Like that behavior was normal. Acceptable. Expected. Keanu had seen enough. More than enough. But he wanted to be sure. Wanted to confirm this wasn't an aberration. A bad day. Everyone had bad days. But this wasn't a bad day. This was a pattern. A culture. A system of abuse that had been normalized. After the break, they moved to the next scene. A costume change for Connor. He went to the costume area where Rosemary was waiting with a new outfit. A different look for a different part of the story. She held it up. This is the wrong shade of blue. Mr. Blake, this is the exact costume that was approved. I don't care what was approved. It looks cheap. It makes me look washed out. Find another one. We don't have another. This was custom made. Then make another one. That would take weeks. We're on a tight schedule. Then that's your problem. You're getting paid what? $50,000 for this? 60? And you can't give me a decent costume? You're an incompetent idiot. Rosemary stepped back. Her eyes filled. 30 years in the business. Award-winning work. Dressed icons. And now being called an idiot in front of the entire crew by a 26-year-old who thought tantrums were leadership. This was the moment. The point where Keanu decided enough. He walked across the soundstage, directly toward Connor. The crew noticed. Conversations stopped. Everyone watched. Keanu reached Connor. Calmly took the wireless microphone that Connor was still wearing. Just reached out and removed it. Not aggressively. Calmly. But decisively. Hey, what the? You're done here, Keanu said quietly. Shut down. Who the hell do you think you are? You can't. I can. And I am. David, Keanu turned to the director who had frozen a few feet away. Either he leaves this set right now, or I do. Your choice. David looked like he'd been punched. His face went pale. He glanced between Keanu and Connor. The entire soundstage had gone completely silent. 50 people frozen. Watching. Waiting. Keanu, I can't just. Yes, you can. You're the director. This is your set. You're in charge. And if you don't remove him, I'm calling the studio myself. Right now. Connor laughed. Actually laughed. You're bluffing. You can't just kick me off. I'm the lead. This entire movie depends on me. Keanu pulled out his phone. Didn't break eye contact with Connor. Scrolled through contacts. Found the name he needed. Jennifer Morris, head of the studio. They'd known each other 20 years. Worked on a dozen films together. He pressed dial. Put on speaker so everyone could hear. She answered after 2 rings. Keanu? What's going on? Jennifer, I'm on the set of Alpha Protocol. We have a problem. A serious problem. Your lead actor is abusing crew members. I just watched him throw hot coffee at a PA. Call the DP incompetent. Call the costume designer an idiot. This is unacceptable. Silence on the other end. Then, Keanu, I hear you, but Connor is under contract. We're in the middle of production. Then break the contract. Find a replacement. Or I walk. And not just from this film. What do you mean? I mean, I also walk from Nexus, Eclipse, and Chronicles. 3 films we have coming up. All major budgets. All dependent on me as the lead. If you don't handle this, if you allow this behavior, I won't work with your studio again. The silence was longer this time. Heavy. Keanu could almost hear Jennifer doing the math. 1 difficult actor versus 1 reliable star attached to 3 major franchises. The financial calculation. The risk assessment. The PR nightmare of either choice. Keanu, is this real? Is the behavior really that bad? Worse. I'll testify to it. So will every person here. Ask the DP. Ask the costume designer. Ask the PAs. Ask them how Connor Blake treats them. Then decide if that's what you want representing your studio. He heard Jennifer exhale. Let me talk to David. Keanu handed the phone to David. The director took it reluctantly. Walked a few steps away. Spoke quietly. Keanu couldn't hear the exact words, but he could see David's face transform. From fear to relief. From trapped to freed. The conversation lasted maybe 3 minutes. David returned. Handed the phone back to Keanu. She wants to talk to you again. Keanu, we'll handle it. Connor will be removed. Today, I'm sending legal to terminate his contract. David will have a new actor by the end of the week. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Thank you for taking action. Keanu hung up, turned to Connor, who'd been standing there, his face cycling through emotions. Disbelief, anger, fear, now landing on rage. You can't do this. You can't just kick me off. I just did. Jennifer from the studio says you're done. Legal is coming to terminate your contract. I suggest you leave with dignity. You've ruined my career. Do you know how much it cost to get here? Less than it cost Rosemary 30 years of work to earn the respect you destroyed in 1 sentence. Less than it cost Samantha 2 decades to become the best DP in the business, only to be called incompetent. Less than it cost that PA his dignity when you threw hot coffee near his feet. Your career? You did this to yourself. I'll sue. I'll go to the press. Go ahead. Do all of that. But know that every person on this set will testify against you. Everyone saw how you behaved. Everyone's documenting. You think you're the first young star who thought fame meant you could abuse people? You're not. And you'll end up like all the others who did. Forgotten. Connor's face was crimson. This is bullshit. You're just jealous. You're old. Past your prime. You can't handle that I'm the future. The future doesn't abuse people. The future doesn't mistake cruelty for strength. The future doesn't throw tantrums and call it leadership. You're not the future. You're a cautionary tale. Security arrived. 2 large men in black uniforms. David must have called them during his conversation with Jennifer. They approached Connor carefully. Mr. Blake, we need you to come with us. I'm not going anywhere. This is my movie. Sir, please don't make this difficult. Connor looked around the soundstage. At the crew members who'd suffered his abuse for 6 weeks. Hoping for support. For someone to defend him. No one met his eyes. No one spoke up. The silence was damning. More damning than any accusation. Fine. But this isn't over. I'll destroy all of you. I'll make sure none of you work again. I have connections. I have power. You have nothing, Keanu said quietly. You had opportunity. You had talent. You had people willing to work with you. You destroyed all of that. With your choices. Your behavior. Your inability to see other people as human. That's on you. No one else. Security escorted Connor toward the exit. He was still shouting. Threats. Accusations. Justifications. His voice echoed through the soundstage, then faded as they took him outside. The door closed. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Then, slowly, The crew started moving again, resumed their work. But different now. The energy had shifted, from fear to relief, from tension to possibility. Rosemary approached Keanu. She was crying, not sobbing, just quiet tears running down her face. "Thank you. No one's ever stood up for us like that. We get used to tolerating it. You shouldn't have to. You're a professional. You deserve respect. I've been doing this 30 years. Worked with hundreds of actors. Some are wonderful. Some are difficult. But Connor was different. He was cruel, and young enough to think he'd get away with it forever. Not anymore." Samantha, the DP, also came over. Her usual composure had cracked slightly. Her eyes were red. "Keanu, I don't know what to say. I've worked with difficult actors before, but Connor was another level. I actually thought I'd just have to endure it. Finish the film and never work with him again. You shouldn't have to endure abuse. From anyone." The PA, Josh, the young guy who'd had coffee thrown near him, stood nearby. Keanu noticed him. "Hey, what's your name?" "Josh. Josh Martinez." "Josh, you okay?" "Your feet." "I'm Fine. Just a little burned. Nothing serious." "Good. But if you need medical attention, make sure production covers it." "And Josh, you didn't deserve that. You're doing a good job. Don't let anyone tell you different." Josh nodded. Looked like he might cry. "Thank you, Mr. Reeves. I'm just a PA. Nobody listens to us. We're the lowest on the ladder. Not in my view. Every position matters. Every person matters. The film doesn't happen without PAs, without costume designers, without DPs, without every single person here. You're all essential." As the news spread, the crew started to thaw. Conversations resumed. Smiles returned. People who'd been moving through the day with hunched shoulders, defensive postures, started to relax. Several crew members approached Keanu, thanked him, shared stories of other abuses they'd witnessed, endured, stayed silent about. "This happens too often," one of the stunt performers said. "Young actors get a little success, think they're invincible. Studios protect them because they're invested. We just have to take it." "Not anymore," Keanu said. "At least not on sets where I'm present. And if this becomes a pattern, if more actors stand up, maybe studios will start listening." David, the director, found Keanu. He looked 20 pounds lighter, like a weight had lifted. "I need to apologize. I should have stopped Connor earlier. I was afraid of the consequences. You were in an impossible position, but now it's resolved. Now we can actually make a good film, with an actor who respects the process." Jennifer's already lining up replacements. "We have a short list. She says we should have a decision by end of day. Do you want input?" "If you want it, yes. But ultimately, it's your film. Your choice. I want your input. You're the one who had the courage to do what I couldn't. Least I can do is include you in the solution." An hour later, they had a video call set up in David's office. Keanu, David, Jennifer from the studio, and 2 producers. Jennifer shared the screen. A short list of potential replacements. 3 actors, all available, all physically right for the role, but with very different reputations. The first was known as difficult, talented, but temperamental. Had walked off projects, fought with directors. Not as bad as Connor, but not great. The second was a safe choice. Professional, reliable, but not particularly exciting. Competent, but uninspiring. The third was less known. Talented, but not a star. Had come up through independent film. Reputation as collaborative and humble. The third one, Keanu said immediately, Daniel Okonkwo. He's the smallest name. One of the producers objected. Connor was a marketing draw. Daniel doesn't carry that weight. Daniel is a good actor and a good person. I worked with him on an indie 3 years ago. He's humble, prepared, respectful to every crew member. That's what you want. Not a bigger name that brings toxicity. Jennifer considered this. If you vouch for him, that carries weight. All right, Daniel it is. I'll get his agent now. The call ended. Keanu felt something settle in his chest. Not satisfaction exactly, but rightness. This was how it should work. Bad behavior should have consequences. Good people should get opportunities. Within 2 hours, Daniel Okonkwo was contracted. He'd arrive on set the next morning. There'd be an accelerated training period, costume fittings, rehearsals. But he had 6 weeks before his major scenes. It was manageable. By evening, The news had leaked. Trade publications started reporting. Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline. Connor Blake fired from Alpha Protocol following on-set abuse allegations. Keanu Reeves issued ultimatum leading to removal. The story exploded. Social media erupted. Hashtags started trending. People who'd worked with Connor on previous projects began sharing their own stories. This hadn't been isolated. This was a pattern. This was who he was. Connor's agent released a statement denying everything. Mr. Blake categorically denies these allegations. He has been nothing but professional on every project. These claims are baseless. But then video emerged. Someone on set, anonymously, uploaded a clip. Connor screaming at Rosemary, calling her an idiot. You could see her face. The visible hurt. The humiliation. The video went viral. Millions of views in hours. Connor's denials crumbled. More footage appeared. Connor berating the PA, throwing the coffee. His face twisted in contempt. All captured. All documented. All proving exactly what Keanu had said. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was abuse. Clear. Documented. Undeniable. Other actors started speaking out. Those who'd worked with Connor. Those who'd witnessed his behavior. Those who'd been afraid to speak before because he was a rising star. Now the gates were open. The stories poured out. One actor tweeted, "Worked with Connor on a film 2 years ago. Watched him reduce an AD to tears. It was painful to witness. Glad someone finally stopped him." A director posted, "Was approached for a project with Connor. Declined after talking to crew from his previous films." Everyone had stories. Everyone looked exhausted. It wasn't worth it. Even a studio executive, anonymously, told Variety, "We knew Connor was problematic. But he tested well with audiences. Made money. So we protected him. That was a mistake. We should have acted sooner." The industry was having a reckoning. How often did this behavior happen? How often did it pass because the actor was marketable? How many crew members had suffered in silence? The conversation was uncomfortable. Necessary. Overdue. Keanu gave an interview to The Hollywood Reporter. Short. Direct. "I didn't do this to be a hero. I did it because it was right. Crew members are professionals. They work long hours, often for less money than actors, to make us look good. They deserve respect." Connor Blake wasn't showing them that respect. So he had to go. It's not complicated math. Talent doesn't excuse cruelty. Success doesn't excuse abuse. We need to hold each other accountable. If we don't, the behavior continues. And more people suffer. The interviewer asked, "Some say you've destroyed a young man's career. Do you feel guilty?" No. He destroyed his own career. With his choices. His treatment of people. "I just made sure there were consequences." That's the difference. What would you say to other actors who witness abuse on sets? Speak up. Don't stay silent. Use your platform. Your voice. Protect people who can't protect themselves. That's part of the job. Part of the responsibility that comes with status. If you see something wrong and you do nothing, you're complicit. That's unacceptable. The interview was shared thousands of times. Became part of the larger conversation. About power. About accountability. About what Hollywood should be versus what it often was. Within a week, Connor Blake was unemployable. Every project he'd been attached to dropped him. His agent dropped him. His PR team dropped him. No one wanted the association. The stain was too deep. The evidence too clear. Connor tried to save himself. Posted a video apology. Scripted, insincere. "I apologize if anyone was hurt by my actions. I was under enormous pressure. I make mistakes. I'm learning." But it was too late. Too weak. The public didn't buy it. The industry didn't buy it. He was done. 26 years old, career destroyed. Not because he lacked talent, but because he lacked character. Because he thought success gave him rights he didn't have. Because he forgot that every person on a set was human. With dignity. With a right to respect. The next morning, Daniel Okonkwo arrived on set. He was nervous but excited. Mid-30s, had been grinding in independent film for a decade. Good actor. Better person. He found Keanu near the monitors. "Keanu, thank you for recommending me. This is an incredible opportunity. You earned it. You're a good actor. And a good person. That's what matters. I heard what happened. With Connor. That took courage. It took awareness. It took seeing something wrong and refusing to let it continue. That's not courage. That's baseline humanity. Daniel spent the morning meeting the crew. Took time with each department. Learning names. Asking about their work. Listening. Actually listening. The contrast with Connor was immediate. Obvious. Rosemary, working on Daniel's costume fitting, had tears in her eyes when she spoke to Keanu later. Daniel is so different. So normal. He actually cares about what we do. Asks questions. Treats us like professionals. That's how it should be. Every time. I know. But after 6 weeks of Connor, I'd almost forgotten. Almost normalized the abuse. Thank you for reminding me we deserve better. The first take with Daniel went smoothly. He was prepared. Knew his lines. Hit his marks. Listened to David. Adjusted when asked. No tantrums. No excuses. Just professionalism. The crew worked faster. Happier. More efficiently. Without the toxic energy of Connor, everyone could breathe. Could do their jobs without walking on eggshells. Creativity flowed. David could direct without managing egos. Samantha could light beautifully without being second-guessed. Rosemary could design without being insulted. Keanu's scenes wrapped after 2 days. Smooth. Efficient. Fun even. His chemistry with Daniel on screen was excellent. They improvised some moments that David loved. This was collaboration. This was how a film set should feel. On his last day, the crew gave Keanu a standing ovation. Not because he was a star, but because he'd stood up for them, used his power well, demonstrated values that everyone wanted to see in the industry, but too rarely did. Thank you, he said simply, for doing what you do, for making this industry work, for enduring what you shouldn't have to endure. You deserve better. We all need to make sure you get it. 3 months later, Alpha Protocol was still shooting, running smoothly, on schedule, under budget even, because they weren't losing time to Connor's outbursts and demands. David sent Keanu updates. Photos from set. It's a completely different production now. Daniel is a dream. The crew is happy. We're making a better film than we could have with Connor. Thank you for that. 6 months after the incident, the trades reported on Connor's attempts at a comeback. He'd hired a crisis management team, was doing therapy, supposedly, volunteering, tried to rehabilitate his image. But no one was hiring him. The stain was too deep. The video evidence too damning. One producer told Variety, even if Connor has changed, and I'm not convinced he has, the risk isn't worth it. Why hire someone with his history when there are hundreds of talented actors without the baggage? Daniel Okonkwo, meanwhile, was thriving. After Alpha Protocol, he booked 2 more major films. His career trajectory had changed overnight, from struggling indie actor to rising star. And in every interview, he gave credit. I wouldn't be here without Keanu Reeves. He believed in me when others didn't. But more than that, he showed me what it means to be a professional. Not just on screen, but how you treat people off screen. That's the real work. That's what matters. A year after the incident, Alpha Protocol was released. It was a hit. Daniel called him a revelation. Audiences loved him. He started getting offers for franchise work, leading roles. His career launched. And through it all, he remained humble, grounded, kind to every crew member on every project. He'd learned from Keanu, carried those values forward. Connor Blake, meanwhile, had vanished. No more projects. No more appearances. Rumors said he was trying to work behind the scenes. Production assistant work. Starting over from the bottom. Whether that was true or just wishful thinking from people who wanted to believe in redemption, no one knew. The industry had moved on, forgotten him, as it does with those who squander opportunity, who mistake privilege for permission, who forget that talent without character is nothing. The incident had become a case study. Film schools taught it. The Connor Blake situation as an example of how not to behave. How one person's actions could destroy not just their career, but damage everyone around them. How accountability mattered. How speaking up mattered. Keanu received letters, emails, messages from crew members on other projects, thanking him, sharing their own stories of abuse they'd witnessed or experienced, expressing hope that things were changing, that his example was inspiring others to speak up, to not tolerate the intolerable. One letter stood out. from a young production assistant named Maria. Mr. Reeves, I've been working in film for 3 years. I've experienced harassment, abuse, situations where I felt powerless. I watched what you did with Connor Blake, how you used your position to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. It gave me courage. Last month, an actor on my project was verbally abusing our costume designer. I reported it to the producer. They investigated. The actor was removed. It worked because you showed it could work. Thank you for that. Thank you for proving that speaking up matters. Keanu responded to every letter he could. Encourage people to keep speaking, to keep demanding better, to remember that change happened one choice at a time, one voice at a time, one refusal to accept toxicity at a time. 2 years after the incident, SAG-AFTRA, the actors' union, implemented new policies. Mandatory respectful workplace training for all members. Hotlines for reporting abuse. Fast-track investigation processes. Real consequences for violations, including suspension or expulsion. Studios followed with their own policies. Zero-tolerance language in contracts. Monitoring systems. Independent set observers on large productions. It wasn't perfect. Abuse still happened, but it happened less frequently, was less tolerated, was addressed more quickly. The culture was shifting, not because of one person or one incident, but because Keanu's stand had been a catalyst, had shown what was possible when someone with power chose to use it well, when silence was rejected as complicity, when speaking up was recognized not as troublemaking, but as leadership. 3 years later, Keanu was invited to speak at a Screen Actors Guild event. The theme was responsibility and power in Hollywood. He almost declined, didn't love being the center of attention, but his publicist convinced him. People need to hear this from you. It matters. The event was packed. Actors, directors, producers, crew members. Everyone wanted to hear what he'd say. Keanu stood at the podium, looked out at the audience, began speaking. 3 years ago, I was on a film set where I witnessed abuse. An actor screaming at crew, throwing things, destroying people who were just trying to do their jobs. I had a choice. I could ignore it, keep my head down, not make waves, or I could act. I chose to act, not because I'm brave, but because it was right. He paused. Let that settle. We talk a lot about power in this industry. Who has it? How it's used. But we don't talk enough about the responsibility that comes with power. When you're an actor, especially a successful one, you have influence. Studios listen to you. Crew depends on you. You can use that influence for good or bad. You can lift people up or tear them down. That's a choice. Every day, that's a choice. The incident 3 years ago wasn't about one bad actor. It was about a culture that enabled that behavior, that protected stars at the expense of workers, that valued profit over people. That needs to change. And it starts with us, with actors using our platforms, with directors setting tone on sets, with producers prioritizing well-being over the bottom line. We all have a role to play. If you witness abuse, speak up. Don't rationalize it. Don't stay silent. Speak. If you're in a position of power, use it well. Protect people who can't protect themselves. Create environments where respect isn't optional but expected. This isn't complicated, but it requires courage. It requires willingness to risk discomfort, conflict, maybe even your career. But it's worth it, because on the other side, you get something invaluable. You get an industry where people feel safe, respected, valued, where creativity can flourish because no one's afraid, where the best work happens because everyone's supported. That's the Hollywood I want. That's the Hollywood we can build. Together. The room erupted in applause. Standing ovation. Not for him specifically, but for what he'd articulated, for the vision of what could be, for the acknowledgement that change was possible, that they all had power, that using it well mattered. After the speech, question and answer. A young actress asked, "Mr. Reeves, what if speaking up costs you work? What if studios blacklist you for making trouble? Then those aren't studios you want to work for. Look for places that value integrity. They exist, and they're looking for people like you. Be patient. Find your tribe. And if enough of us speak up, studios will have to listen. They can't blacklist all of us." A crew member asked, What if we're afraid to report because our jobs are on the line? How do we protect ourselves? Unions help. Whistleblower protections help. But ultimately, the industry needs to create safer reporting systems. Anonymous hotlines. Independent investigations. Real consequences for abusers. That's on studios to build, and on us to demand. A director asked, how do we balance creative passion with respect? Sometimes directors are intense, demanding. Where's the line between pushing for excellence and abuse? Intensity isn't the same as cruelty. You can be demanding without being demeaning. You can push people without destroying them. The line is respect. If you're treating people with dignity, even when you're demanding, that's not abuse. That's leadership. The questions continued for an hour. Keanu answered honestly, acknowledged what he didn't know, pushed back when people wanted simple answers to complex questions. This wasn't about hero worship. This was about collective responsibility, about everyone doing their part, about building the industry they wanted to see. 5 years after the incident, Keanu was approached by a documentary filmmaker, a woman named Sarah Chun, who'd been making films about workplace culture in creative industries. She wanted to tell the full story, from the incident on set to the industry-wide changes that followed. From Connor Blake's fall to Daniel Okonkwo's rise. From silence to accountability. It's bigger than one moment, Sarah said when they met for coffee in Los Feliz. That day on set was a catalyst. But the real story is what came after. How one person's choice rippled outward. How it changed policies, changed culture, changed hundreds of lives. That's what I want to document. Keanu was hesitant. He'd done the interview with Hollywood Reporter, the speech at SAG, but a full documentary felt like too much. Too focused on him when the story was about systemic change, about collective action. I'm not the story, he said. The crew members are the story. The people who'd been suffering in silence. The ones who found courage to speak up after. That's what matters. You're right. And that's exactly what I want to show. But your role was important. You were the spark. The person with enough power to actually force consequences. That matters too. Let me show both sides. The system and the individual who challenged it. He thought about it. Finished his coffee. Looked out the window at the Los Angeles afternoon. If you do this, I want certain things. I want extensive interviews with crew members. Not just from Alpha Protocol, but from other projects. I want their stories centered. Not mine. Agreed. I want you to interview Connor. Give him a chance to speak. To explain himself. Even if what he says is ugly or defensive. He deserves to tell his side. Sarah raised her eyebrows. You want to give him a platform? I want to give him accountability. Let him speak. Then let his words stand against the evidence. Against the testimonies. Let people judge for themselves. But don't erase him from the story. That makes it too easy. Too simple. This isn't heroes and villains. It's complicated people making choices. That's a more nuanced approach than most would take. It's the truthful approach, which is the only one worth taking. Sarah spent 6 months filming. She interviewed Rosemary, the costume designer, who'd since won an Emmy for her work on a prestige drama. Rosemary talked about that day, how she'd felt when Connor called her an idiot, how she'd gone home and cried, how she'd almost quit the industry, then how she'd felt when Keanu stood up for her, when Connor was removed, when consequences actually happened. It changed something in me, Rosemary said to the camera. I'd spent 30 years accepting abuse as the price of doing this work. That day, I learned it didn't have to be that way, that I deserved respect, that standing up was possible. It saved my career, maybe saved me. Sarah interviewed Samantha Yorks, the DP. She'd gone on to shoot 2 major franchise films, was now one of the most sought-after cinematographers in the industry. She talked about Connor's behavior, the constant undermining, the public humiliation, how it had affected not just her, but her entire camera crew. The thing about on-set abuse is it doesn't just hurt the target, Samantha explained. It creates an atmosphere of fear. Everyone walks on eggshells. Everyone's afraid they're next. Creativity dies in that environment. You're too busy managing anxiety to do your best work. When Keanu removed Connor, it was like someone opened a window. Fresh air came in. We could breathe again, could do the work we were capable of. Sarah interviewed Josh Martinez, the PA who'd had coffee thrown near him. He was a production coordinator now, working his way up. No longer the scared 22-year-old, but a confident professional. That day shaped my understanding of what leadership looks like, Josh said. Connor had all the markers of success. The career, the money, the star power. But he wasn't a leader. He was a bully. Keanu showed me real leadership. Standing up for people who can't protect themselves. Using your position to make things better. That's what I try to do now in my work. Sarah interviewed other crew members. From different projects, different cities, different parts of the industry. All with similar stories. Actors who abused. Directors who terrorized. Producers who enabled. And the slow, grinding damage it did. To careers. To mental health. To love of the work. Then the stories of change. Of speaking up. Of consequences happening. Of workplaces becoming safer. Not perfect. Not free of all problems. But better. Measurably better. She interviewed Daniel Okonkwo, now a genuine star. 3 franchise films. Critical acclaim. Commercial success. But more importantly, a reputation as one of the kindest people in the industry. I think about that opportunity every day, Daniel told Sarah. How easily it could have gone to someone else. How Keanu vouched for me when I was nobody. But also how he showed me what to do with success once you have it. It's not about you. It's about everyone around you. The crew who makes you look good. The assistants who keep things running. The stunt people who risk their bodies. You take care of them. That's not optional. That's the job. Then came the difficult interview. Sarah had tracked down Connor Blake. He'd agreed to talk. After 5 years, he was ready to speak publicly. The interview took place in a small apartment in Van Nuys. Connor had gained weight. Looked older than 31. Tired. The cockiness was gone. Replaced by something quieter. Sadder. Maybe wiser. I was a monster, Connor said simply. There's no other word for it. I treated people like objects. Like they existed to serve me. I thought success gave me permission to be cruel. I was wrong. Completely, devastatingly wrong. Sarah asked, what do you think when you look back at that day? When Keanu removed you from the set? Honestly, I am grateful. I hated him for it then. Spent months, years even, blaming him for destroying my career. But he didn't destroy my career. I did. He just made sure there were consequences. Which is what should have happened years earlier. If someone had stopped me sooner, maybe I wouldn't have hurt so many people. Do you think you can come back? Work in the industry again? Connor shook his head. I don't know. Maybe not as an actor. That door feels closed. But I've been working below the line. Production assistant. Set construction. Learning the industry from the bottom up. Learning what all those people I abused actually do. It's humbling. It's necessary. Whether it leads anywhere, I don't know. But I'm trying to be better. Trying to make amends where I can. What would you say to other young actors who think success gives them the right to treat people badly? That you're wrong. Success is privilege, not permission. You're getting opportunities most people never get. That creates responsibility. To work hard. To be kind. To lift others up. If you can't do that, you don't deserve success. You'll lose it. Like I did. Learn that lesson before you have to learn it the hard way. The interview was raw. Uncomfortable. Connor didn't make excuses. Didn't minimize what he'd done. Just owned it. Whether it was genuine growth or performance for the camera, Sarah couldn't be entirely sure. But it was compelling. Complex. Human. Sarah also interviewed industry executives. Studio heads. Union leaders. People who'd implemented the policy changes. A studio VP said, the Connor Blake incident was a wake-up call. We'd been protecting problematic talent because they made money. But we realized the cost. The turnover in crew. The lawsuits waiting to happen. The moral bankruptcy of prioritizing profit over people. We had to change. A union representative added, we've been trying to get stronger protections for crew members for years. But it took a high-profile incident to create momentum. Keanu's stand gave our members courage to come forward with their own stories. That flood of testimonies made change inevitable. The documentary was 90 minutes. Titled The Price of Silence. It premiered at Sundance. Got picked up by a major streaming service. Released globally. The response was overwhelming. Critics praised its nuance. Its refusal to create simple heroes and villains. Its focus on systemic issues rather than individual drama. Audiences watched, discussed, shared their own stories in comment sections and on social media. The conversation continued, deepened, spread beyond film industry to other creative fields, to corporate environments, to anywhere power dynamics existed and could be abused. Keanu watched the documentary alone in his home theater, saw himself on screen, the interviews he'd given, the footage from that day captured by someone's phone, his face when he took Connor's microphone. Calm, determined, not angry, just done with tolerating the intolerable. He saw the impact, the crew members whose lives had changed, the policies that had been implemented, the culture that had shifted, not completely, not perfectly, but measurably. He thought about Connor, about the broken man in that Van Nuys apartment, try to rebuild from rubble. Whether Connor would succeed, Keanu didn't know. Whether redemption was possible for everyone, he wasn't sure. But he believed in the possibility, believed people could change if they truly wanted to, if they did the work, if they faced honestly what they'd done and who they'd been. 6 years after the incident, Keanu received an unexpected letter. Handwritten, postmarked from Van Nuys. He opened it carefully. The handwriting was neat, but unpracticed, like someone who didn't write letters often. Dear Keanu, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you threw it away, but I wanted to write. To thank you. I know that sounds insane. Thank you for ending my career. Thank you for humiliating me. But yes, thank you. You stopped me from becoming someone irredeemable. I was on a path to being a complete monster. You interrupted that path, forced me to face what I was becoming. These 6 years have been hell, but necessary hell. I've been in therapy, real therapy, not celebrity image management. I've been working below the line jobs, learning what it means to be part of a crew rather than the star everyone serves. I've been making amends where I can, apologizing to people I hurt. Some accept the apology, some don't. I understand both responses. I'm not writing to ask forgiveness or to ask you to help me get work. I'm just writing to say that what you did, it saved something in me, some small part that was still reachable, still human, that could learn and grow and change. I don't know if I'll ever work as an actor again. Probably not, but I'm okay with that. I'm learning to be okay with that because I'm becoming someone I can live with, someone who isn't cruel, who doesn't abuse people, who understands that every person matters. That's worth more than any career. Thank you for that gift, even though it came in the form of the worst day of my life. Connor Blake. Keanu read the letter 3 times. Felt something complicated in his chest. Not forgiveness exactly. Not friendship, but acknowledgement. That growth was possible. That people could change. That the hardest lessons were sometimes the most important. He didn't respond to the letter. Didn't feel he needed to. Connor wasn't asking for a response, just offering acknowledgement. That was enough. 7 years after the incident, Keanu was on another big-budget set. Different studio, different director, but similar scale. First day, during the production meeting, the director addressed everyone. Cast and crew together. I want to establish something from the start. This set operates on respect. Everyone here, from the lead actors to the PAs, you're all professionals. You all matter. If anyone experiences or witnesses abuse, harassment, or disrespect, we have anonymous reporting systems. We have zero-tolerance policies, and they will be enforced. No one's star power protects them. No one's position exempts them. We're here to make something great, and we do that by taking care of each other. The speech was met with visible relief. Crew members looked at each other, nodded. This was the new normal. This was how sets operated now. Not everywhere, not universally, but increasingly. The culture had shifted. After the meeting, a young actress approached Keanu, maybe 24, in her first big studio film. Nervous, but excited. Mr. Reeves, I just want to say what you did 7 years ago with Connor Blake, it changed the industry. I'm starting my career in a much safer environment because you stood up. Thank you for that. The credit doesn't belong to me alone. Belongs to everyone who spoke up after, who demanded better, who refused to accept abuse as normal. But you were the catalyst. You showed it was possible. Maybe, but you have to carry it forward. Every set you're on, every project you work on, you set the tone. You create the culture. Don't wait for someone else to stand up. Be the person who stands up. I will. I promise. Over the next decade, the changes became embedded. Not just policies, but culture. Film schools taught respectful workplace behavior as core curriculum. Studios hired set monitors whose only job was ensuring safe working environments. Unions negotiated stronger protections. Insurance companies required compliance with workplace safety standards. The economic incentives had shifted. Abuse was now a liability. Not just morally, but financially. Productions with toxic environments had higher turnover, more delays, more lawsuits. Productions with respectful cultures ran smoother, came in on budget, had better creative outcomes. The business case aligned with the moral case, which made change sustainable. Connor Blake slowly rebuilt, not as an actor. That door had closed, but as a below-the-line worker. He became good at production design, worked on small films, independent projects, built a reputation as reliable, hard-working, respectful. People who worked with him knew his history. Some refused to work with him because of it. Others gave him chances. Watch him carefully. He understood, accepted it. This was the consequence of his choices. He destroyed trust. Rebuilding it took years, maybe a lifetime, maybe never completely. But he kept trying. 10 years after the incident, a young director named Maya Rodriguez was making her first studio film. A small budget by Hollywood standards. $20 million. She cast Connor Blake in a small role. A day player. 2 scenes. It was controversial. Some crew members objected. Didn't want to work with him given his history. Maya held a meeting. I know Connor's past. I've researched it thoroughly. I've talked to people who've worked with him recently. I've interviewed him extensively. I believe people can change. I've seen evidence he has. But I also understand if you're uncomfortable. If you don't want to work with him, I won't force anyone. We can recast, but I want to give him a chance. Under strict conditions. Any sign of his old behavior, he's gone immediately. No warnings. No second chances. But if he's genuinely different, if he's done the work, I think redemption should be possible. What do you all think? The crew discussed. Some were opposed. Some were willing. Ultimately, they agreed to try. With conditions. Connor would have a monitor. Someone whose job was to observe his behavior. Any issues reported immediately. One strike and he was out. Connor accepted these terms. Understood them. Was grateful for the chance. His scenes were shot over 2 days. He was professional. Prepared. Respectful to everyone. Took direction without complaint. Thanked every crew member he interacted with. At the end of his second day, the crew gave him quiet acknowledgement. Not applause, not celebration, but nods. Recognition that he'd done the work. Been professional. Earned the small trust they'd extended. After wrap, Connor approached Maya. Thank you for the opportunity. For taking a risk on me. I know it wasn't easy. You did good work. But Connor, this is just a start. You're rebuilding from zero. Maybe less than zero. That takes time. Years. Maybe forever. Don't expect this to open floodgates. Don't expect your old career back. Just keep doing the work. Keep being better. That's all you can do. I know. I'm grateful for even this. For a chance to prove I've changed. That's more than I deserve. 15 years after the incident, Keanu was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Screen Actors Guild. The ceremony was at the Shrine Auditorium, packed with industry people. His career had continued. Good films, important work. But he knew the award wasn't just for his acting. It was for everything else. The advocacy, the stand he'd taken, the culture he'd helped change. During his acceptance speech, he talked about the Connor Blake incident. Not with pride, not with triumph, but with reflection. 15 years ago, I was on a set where I witnessed abuse. I made a choice to speak up, to demand consequences. That choice changed many lives, changed policies, changed culture. But I want to be clear about something. I'm not a hero. I just did what anyone with power and conscience should do. I used my position to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. That's not heroic. That's basic human decency. The real heroes are the crew members who endured abuse for years before anyone stood up for them. The real heroes are the people who came forward with their stories after, who risked retaliation to demand change. The real heroes are the union organizers who fought for stronger protections. The executives who chose ethics over profit. The directors who created respectful environments even when it was harder. I was just one person, one moment, one choice. What matters is what came after. The collective action, the systemic change, the commitment from everyone to build something better. He paused, looked out at the audience, saw faces he'd worked with over decades. Young actors just starting, veterans near the end, crew members, executives, the entire ecosystem of the industry. We're not done. The work continues. There are still toxic sets, still abusive people in positions of power, still systems that protect perpetrators. But we've proven change is possible. We've proven that speaking up works, that consequences matter, that culture can shift. So keep speaking, keep demanding better, keep protecting each other. That's the real work. That's the legacy I hope we all leave. Not the films we made, but the industry we built. One where everyone can do their best work without fear. Where talent matters more than power. Where kindness is expected, not exceptional. That's the goal. We're getting there. Together. The room stood, applauded, not just for Keanu, but for what he'd articulated, for the shared commitment, for the progress made and the work remaining. After the ceremony, at the reception, Connor Blake approached. Keanu hadn't seen him in person since that day 15 years ago. Connor looked different, older obviously, but also different in essence. The arrogance was gone, replaced by humility, by an awareness of his place in the world. Keanu, I don't want to intrude, but I wanted to thank you, in person, for what you did 15 years ago. Connor, Keanu studied him, saw the changes, the hard-earned wisdom. How are you? I'm okay. Working. Small projects. Below the line mostly. I've had a few small acting roles recently. Nothing big. Probably never will be big again. But I'm okay with that. I'm doing work I'm proud of. Treating people well. Learning every day how to be better. That's good. That's what matters. I wanted you to know, I understand now why you did what you did. Not just to protect the crew, but to stop me. Before I became completely irredeemable. You saved something in me. Some capacity for growth, for change. Always be grateful for that, even though it came in the form of the worst day of my life. Keanu nodded slowly. People can change, but only if they choose to. Only if they do the work. You've done that work. I can see it. Thank you. That means more than you know. They shook hands. Not friends. Too much history for that. But something like mutual respect. Acknowledgement. Connor walked away, back to his small corner of the industry. His modest career, his ongoing work of being better. Keanu watched him go, felt something settle. Not closure exactly, but completion. The circle had turned. The story had evolved. From crisis to consequence to change to, maybe, redemption. Not complete redemption. Not erasing what had happened, but the possibility of becoming someone different. Someone better. That possibility existed. For everyone. If they chose it. If they worked for it. If they faced honestly what they'd been and committed to becoming more. 20 years after the incident, the industry was unrecognizable. Not perfect. Still problems. Still work to do. But fundamentally different. Safer. More respectful. More equitable. Young people entering the industry didn't know the old ways. Didn't know a time when abuse was normalized. Expected. Tolerated. They worked on sets where respect was standard. Where speaking up was encouraged, where consequences were real. They took it for granted, which was how it should be. The best changes were the ones that became invisible, that shifted from reform to norm, from exception to expectation. Keanu continued working, making films, but also mentoring, teaching, passing on not just craft, but values. Every young actor he worked with, he taught the same lessons. Respect everyone. Use your power well. Stand up when you see wrong. Don't wait for someone else. Be the person who acts. Some listened, some didn't, but enough did. Enough carried it forward, created their own cultures of respect, raised their own standards. The ripple continued, spreading, growing, touching lives he'd never meet, creating workplaces he'd never see, building an industry he might not be around to fully experience, but that his children and grandchildren, if he had them, would inherit. That was legacy, not awards. Not box office, But systems changed. Cultures shifted. Lives improved. That was the work. The only work that truly mattered. And it was never finished. Never complete. Always ongoing. Always requiring the next person to stand up, to speak out, to refuse to accept cruelty as the price of admission. That work continued. Would always continue. As long as there were people willing to do it. People who understood that power was responsibility. That silence was complicity. That one person's choice could ripple forward infinitely, creating waves that crashed on shores they'd never see, helping people they'd never meet, building worlds they'd never inhabit. But that would exist because they chose. In one moment, on one day, to say enough, to demand better, to stand. That was everything. That was the point. That was the legacy worth leaving.